6 ultra-deep-water drilling rigs. The cost of one modern rig project, roughly $440 million. The price of all 6 combined, $71 million, not each. All 6 plus related assets. That is how much Transocean received when it sold them in 2025. The company also recorded a multi-billion-dollar impairment across a larger group of assets. At first, it looks like somebody made a mistake in the listing, especially when a working rig can bill a customer close to $500,000 per day. But there is no mistake, because in offshore drilling, the same machine can be worth hundreds of millions on Monday and become a liability on Tuesday. Its contract only has to end. Revenue can fall towards zero, but the ocean keeps attacking the steel. Equipment keeps aging. Regulators do not cancel inspections out of sympathy for your cash flow. That leads to the most important rule in this business. The rig itself does not create the value. The contract does. While the contract is active, you are selling extremely expensive days. When it ends, the revenue may disappear while the rig keeps asking for money. Today you are going to buy a rig and survive one good year and one bad year. By the end, you will see how a rig without a contract can stop being an asset, no matter how cheaply you bought it. First, we need to fix a common misconception. An offshore platform, a drilling rig, and an FPSO are not the same thing. Your most affordable option is a jackup, a floating platform with 3 or 4 long legs. Tugboats move it into position, lower the legs to the seabed, and raise the hull above the waves. Most jackups work in about 400 feet of water. Specialized units can go deeper. They are stable and much cheaper than deepwater rigs. In December 2025, Borr Drilling agreed to buy 5 premium jackups from Noble for $360 million, or about $72 million per rig on average. So your first step into offshore drilling does not necessarily require $1 billion. If the water is too deep for legs, you need a semi-submersible. Its deck sits on columns and submerged pontoons, and it stays over the well using anchors or dynamic positioning. Then there is the drill ship, with a drilling opening through the center of its hull. Satellite navigation and thrusters hold it over the well. According to the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, some units can operate in almost 12,000 feet of water. An FPSO receives production from wells, processes it, stores it, and offloads it to tankers. It is a floating production facility, not a more expensive drill ship. So do not ask only, how much is the platform? Ask, what job can it do? You can buy a cheap jackup and discover that your customer wants to drill where the seabed is several kilometers down. Congratulations! You now own a relatively cheap rig that is perfectly useless for the job. Now you have to choose how to buy. Option 1 is a new rig. Modern equipment improves your chances with major customers, but there is no fixed price list. Transocean completed the Deepwater Aquila project and related assets for roughly $440 million. Option 2 is a working rig on the secondary market, especially attractive if it comes with a contract, trained crew, and clear maintenance history. You are buying the ability to invoice almost immediately. Option 3 is a rig that has spent years idle. It may look excellent in photographs while hiding expired certifications, missing equipment, and no crew. Cheaper still are rigs already marked for scrap. In 2025, Transocean sold 6 ultra-deepwater floaters and related assets for a combined $71 million. Another rig, Discoverer India, was sold in January 2026 for $14 million. At the same time, the company recorded a $3.05 billion impairment across a broader group of rigs and related assets. That does not mean the buyer found ready-made money machines at scrap value. The market believed that returning many of them to profitable work no longer made sense. In this business, a 90% discount may not be a gift, it may be a warning. You are buying technical readiness and a realistic path to the next contract. Without a customer, the value of the steel becomes almost secondary. Let us say you choose a modern drill ship, wire the money, and name it after yourself. How do you make money now? The oil company chooses the acreage, secures the rights, designs the well, and carries the economic risk if it fails. You are the drilling contractor. Your product is the rig, the crew, and the ability to drill safely. The customer hires that package under a day rate contract, but day is deceptive. A contract may include a full rate, a lower standby rate, mobilization payments, or a zero rate. If repairs take too long, the paid day disappears. In 2025, Valaris generated average daily revenue of about $386,000 across its floater fleet. Its jackups averaged roughly $138,000. Transocean, with a fleet focused on ultra-deepwater and harsh environment work, averaged about $456,700. Individual contracts can go higher. Published periods for Deepwater Atlas included day rates ranging from about $455,000 to $650,000. On paper, the math looks beautiful. Multiply $457,000 by 365, and you get almost $167 million per year. Very few owners get to multiply by 365. Transocean reported fleet utilization of 72.4% in 2025. Valaris reported 54% for its total floater fleet and 71% for active floaters. Between contracts, rigs undergo maintenance, wait for approvals, or sit without customers. So the number that matters is not the maximum rate in a press release. It is the number of days someone actually paid you. A rig day is like an airline seat. If it is empty today, you cannot sell it twice tomorrow, except an empty airline seat does not require a team of engineers and does not cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Assume today is your first paid day. The customer wires you $457,000. All you have to do is put it in your pocket. Unfortunately, the rig has already placed a stack of bills on your desk. 3 counters are running at the same time. The first tracks contract revenue. The second tracks expenses. The third tracks the age of the asset. One email from the customer can stop the first counter. The other 2 continue without your permission. The contractor generally pays for crew, catering, insurance, repairs, maintenance, spares, and shore support. The customer bears most well construction costs, although the exact line depends on the contract. The rig operates around the clock. You need drillers, mechanics, electricians, medics, catering staff, and management. You cannot lock the doors at night and reopen at 9. Then comes maintenance. Salt water, vibration, pressure, and constant load do not care about your financial plan. Critical equipment must remain operational, and regulatory or class requirements cannot simply be postponed because this is a bad quarter. In 2025, Transocean generated about $3.97 billion in contract drilling revenue and spent roughly $2.41 billion on operating and maintenance. These are fleet-wide figures, but the scale is clear. Much of the day rate disappears before depreciation, overhead, interest, and taxes. Valaris spent another $343.5 million on maintenance and upgrades across its fleet in the same year. Sometimes a customer requires specialized upgrades before a new contract begins. You spend money first to earn the right to make money later. And when the rig stops working, the cost counter does not switch off completely. If the next contract begins in a few weeks, you can keep the rig warm stacked. Part of the crew remains, systems are maintained, and the rig stays reasonably close to working condition. If no work is expected for a long time, you may cold stack it. The crew is reduced and equipment is preserved. Costs fall, but eventually everything must be restarted, inspected, certified, and crewed again. In a 2020 presentation, Valaris estimated preservation stacking a drill ship at roughly $3.7 million per year. That is not a current price list, and it does not include a full reactivation. After a long cold stack, the rig may need repairs, class renewal, a new crew, upgrades, and mobilization. Reactivation can be expensive and slow, so you face an unpleasant choice. Warm stacking burns more cash now, but makes a return to work easier. Cold stacking is cheaper today, but makes tomorrow's restart harder and more expensive. That is why a contract can affect a rig's value more than its age. 2 nearly identical drill ships can be separated by hundreds of millions of dollars. One starts work tomorrow, while the other begins another year of waiting. Now assume you found the contract. The rate is strong, the customer is credible, and the crew is ready. Time to relax. Not quite. The customer can suspend the project. Oil prices can make a new well uneconomic. A regulator can delay approval. Equipment failure can move you from the full rate to a reduced or zero rate. And the next contract may begin 6 months after the current one ends. Even in a strong market, Valaris said 13 drill ships were not working at the end of 2025 because of gaps between contracts. Older rigs are especially vulnerable. Customers choose newer, better prepared assets first. A market recovery does not lift every rig equally. The rest keep aging at the dock. You can control the crew, maintenance, safety, and technical readiness. You cannot control oil prices, customer budgets, competition for the next tender, or the date of the next contract. On April 20th, 2010, an explosion and fire tore through Deepwater Horizon. 11 people were killed and 17 were seriously injured. The rig sank roughly 36 hours later, while oil continued flowing from the well for 87 days. For our business, the allocation of responsibility matters. Transocean owned and operated the rig. BP hired it to drill the Macondo well. Transocean later agreed to pay a combined $1.4 billion in civil and criminal penalties. A separate settlement involving BP and government authorities reached $20.8 billion. So the rig owner did not simply receive the entire bill. A project involves the owner, field operator, contractors, and insurers. Liability depends on actions, contracts, and court decisions. But the lesson for an owner is still simple. One rig can produce revenue for years, and one disaster can destroy the asset, disrupt the rest of the fleet, change regulation, and create liabilities far beyond its book value. This is where the jokes stop. Cutting safety is not a way to improve the margin. It is a bet in which you can lose money, the company, and human lives at the same time. Now, let us answer the question you bought the rig to ask. Take a $440 million deepwater drill ship. We do not have one rig's private accounts, so we will use Transocean's published 2025 figures. Good scenario, 330 paid days at average daily revenue of $456,700. Gross revenue, about $150.7 million. Across Transocean's fleet, operating and maintenance costs absorbed roughly 61% of contract drilling revenue. Carefully applying that ratio to our example gives us about $91.5 million in operating and maintenance costs. Depreciation and an allocated share of administrative expenses using the same company-wide proportions add roughly another $32 million. That leaves about $27 million in operating income before interest, taxes, and the details of the individual contract. If you paid cash for the $440 million rig and somehow repeated this year without interruption, the simple payback period is roughly 16 years. If you used debt, interest pushes it even further away. Now the bad scenario. You get only 180 paid days, and average daily revenue falls to $386,000, the 2025 average for Valaris floaters. Revenue drops to about $69.5 million. Expenses do not fall as quickly. You must manage the crew, preserve the rig, maintain class, service debt, and prepare for another contract. Assume costs fall to 70% of the good year level. That is our scenario assumption, not a company figure. Before interest and tax, the model now shows a loss of roughly $27 million. If no contract arrives at all, you pay for stacking while deciding whether to spend even more reactivating an asset that is still getting older. The same ship produces roughly $27 million in operating income in one scenario and loses roughly the same amount in the other. The hull did not change. The drilling tower did not change. The water depth rating did not change. The amount of paid work changed. That also explains how Transocean could sell several rigs for a number that looks absurd beside their historical cost. Sometimes another year of waiting, maintenance, and uncertainty costs more than admitting the loss and removing the asset. Return to the offer from the beginning. 6 rigs and related assets for $71 million. The low price is no longer enough. Which rigs have contracts? When do they end? What will reactivation cost? What rate applies during downtime? If long-term work is waiting, the technical condition is verified, and restart costs are included in the deal, a cheap rig can become the foundation of a profitable business. Without a contract, you are not buying income. You are accepting an enormous maintenance obligation and hoping an oil company eventually hires it. And that reveals the central risk. The most important variables are outside your control. You can maintain the rig, hire an excellent crew, and operate safely. You cannot set oil prices, customer budgets, the next tender, or whether the market gives you 330 paid days instead of 180. That is why offshore drilling is not a passive investment for someone who wants a very large machine. It belongs to specialized companies with fleets, technical organizations, access to billions, and enough staying power to survive idle years. So, should you buy an offshore drilling rig? Yes, if you already have a credible path to a long contract and enough capital to survive when it ends. Probably not, if the seller's only argument is the incredible price. So when the broker shows you 6 offshore giants for $71 million, do not ask what they used to cost. Ask who will pay for their next working day. Because in offshore drilling, the money does not go to whoever bought the steel most cheaply. It goes to whoever managed to keep it under contract.